The crystalline form of Ambassador Kellum glittered nervously under the harsh lights of the Galactic Council chamber. 3,247 standard years since humanity's first tentative steps into space. And still, the Volari found themselves uncomfortable in the grand, imposing architecture of the Council headquarters. Not that anyone could blame Kellum. Today's news would make even the stoic Alterans tremble. "Distinguished representatives," Kellum began, voice resonating through the crystal thorax in a melody of harmonic overtones, "I come before you with grave tidings." The council chamber fell silent. Hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy, some bipedal, some amorphous, some existing partially in dimensions humans couldn't perceive, all turned their attention to the Volari ambassador. The holographic display behind Kellum flickered to life, projecting an image so horrific that several council members emitted involuntary distress signals. "The Ravagers have struck again," Kellum continued, gesturing with crystalline appendages toward the hologram. "The Bright Shore colony, completely decimated. 17 star systems have now fallen. We estimate casualties in the billions." The hologram showed the remains of what had once been a thriving civilization. Orbital platforms reduced to twisted metal, planetary surfaces scorched and barren, the signature radiation patterns of the Ravagers' quantum weapons still lingering in the atmosphere. Elder Trix of the Trixia Collective rose on 6 spindly legs, compound eyes reflecting the holographic devastation. "How long until the defense fleet arrives?" Kellum's crystalline form dimmed slightly, the Volari equivalent of lowering one's head in shame. "The defense fleet engaged the Ravagers at the edge of the Bright Shore system. They were overwhelmed, completely destroyed." Murmurs of horror spread throughout the chamber. The Galactic Council's defense fleet represented the pinnacle of their collective military technology. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, armed with the most advanced weapons their peaceful society had developed. "All of them? How many Ravager vessels?" demanded Diplomat Voss, the gelatinous Alteran shifting colors rapidly with agitation. 17 ships, Kellum replied quietly. The chamber erupted. 17 Ravager vessels had obliterated hundreds of the Council's finest ships. It was unthinkable. "Silence!" The booming voice of Elder Trix cut through the chaos. When order was restored, the ancient Trixian continued. "We have exhausted conventional options. Our defensive capabilities are insufficient. The Ravagers advance on our core worlds, and we cannot stop them." "What do you propose?" asked Voss, now a deep indigo color of dread. Elder Trix's mandibles clicked nervously before responding. "We must request assistance from the restricted species." The chamber fell so silent that Kellum could hear the subtle vibrations of their own crystalline form. "You cannot mean," Voss began. "The Deathworlders," Trix confirmed. "The humans." The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Half the chamber rose in protest. The humans had been classified as a restricted species for good reason. Born on a Class 12 death world, a planet so hostile that most Council species couldn't survive its surface without extensive protection. Humans had evolved as apex predators with an alarming propensity for violence. Their history was littered with warfare. Their technology focused on ever more efficient ways to destroy. When first contact had been established centuries ago, the Council had watched in horror as humans continued to fight among themselves, even as they reached for the stars. The decision to restrict them, to allow limited trade, but prevent their full integration into galactic society, had been nearly unanimous. Kellum had voted for the restriction. "Have we become so desperate?" Voss exclaimed, rippling with distress signals. "The Deathworlders are unpredictable, violent. They could be as dangerous as the Ravagers themselves." "The difference," Trix replied calmly, is that humans can be reasoned with. They have maintained the treaty boundaries for over a century without violation. The Ravagers destroy everything in their path. Kelm moved forward. I have studied human history extensively. Despite their violent tendencies, they display remarkable loyalty to allies. They have a concept they call the responsibility to protect. If approached correctly, they might be willing to assist. And what would prevent them from turning on us afterward? Voss demanded. Their own moral code, Kelm answered. Despite their aggression, humans are governed by complex ethical systems. They value agreements once made. The debate raged for hours. Kelm presented historical evidence of human cooperation alongside the disturbing statistics of their warfare. Diplomats argued about risk assessments. Military advisors admitted their powerlessness against the Ravager threat. Then, a priority transmission interrupted the proceedings. Incoming emergency message from Bright Shore's last defensive position announced the Council's AI. The hologram shifted to show a harried Trixian commander. Background filled with flashing alerts and the sounds of distant explosions. The Ravagers have breached the outer defenses, the commander reported, mandibles quivering. We cannot hold. They will be at the inner worlds within days. Millions of refugees are trapped. The transmission cut to static as something massive exploded behind the commander. Elder Trix turned slowly to face the council. We have no time left for debate. I call for an immediate vote. The voting was conducted swiftly. 60% in favor. 40 against. A decision unlike any in council history had been made. They would ask the Deathworlders for help. Ambassador Kelm, Elder Trix, said formally, as our expert on human culture, you will deliver the request. Kelm's crystalline form dimmed with apprehension. I will depart immediately. The Earth Defense Force vessel Retribution hung in high orbit above Mars, its kilometer-long form bristling with weapon systems that the Galactic Council could scarcely comprehend. Inside its command center, Captain Rick Torres studied the unexpected message with a frown. Verification complete, sir. Lieutenant Maya Cross reported from the tactical station. It's definitely from the Galactic Council. Priority request for assistance. Torres ran a hand through his close-cropped black hair. After a century of being treated as dangerous primitives, the Council was suddenly asking for help? Interesting timing. We just completed the quantum resonance upgrades. Maybe they heard about the tests and got nervous, suggested Chief Engineer Tom Blake from his station, where holographic schematics of the ship's new weapons systems rotated slowly. No, Torres replied. This is something else. The message mentions an enemy called the Ravagers. Anyone heard of them? Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's chief science officer, accessed her console. Nothing in our databases. Captain, the Council has always been selective about what information they share with us. Torres nodded. The Council had maintained a policy of technological exchange with Earth, but kept humanity at arm's length, fearful of their potential for violence. It was a policy that frustrated Torres, who believed Earth could contribute more to galactic stability if given the chance. Sir, Lieutenant Cross interrupted. We're receiving a real-time communication request from a Valeri vessel approaching the boundary line. On screen, Torres ordered. The main view screen shifted to show the crystalline form of Ambassador Kelm. Torres recognized the species, but had never personally encountered a Valeri before. Captain Torres, Kelm began. I am Ambassador Kelm of the Galactic Council. I come with an urgent request for assistance. Torres leaned forward. We received your message, Ambassador. You mentioned a threat called the Ravagers? Yes. Kelm's form shimmered with visible distress. They are an extragalactic species that entered our space approximately 1 standard year ago. They appear to be biomechanical in nature, living metal fused with organic components. They do not communicate. They simply consume worlds, ships, resources, people. All are broken down to fuel their expansion. And your defense forces? Torres asked. Insufficient. Kelm's voice contained harmonics of shame. The Ravagers possess technology beyond our understanding. Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful. Our peaceful confederation has never faced such an adversary. Torres exchanged glances with his senior officers. Ambassador, while I sympathize with your situation, I must ask, why come to us? The Council has made its opinion of humanity quite clear over the years. Kelm's crystalline structure dimmed slightly. Because you are Deathworlders. Captain, you evolved on a planet that tried to kill you every day. You developed technologies specifically for warfare. Your history is filled with conflict that would horrify most Council species. And now those qualities suddenly seem useful. Torres observed dryly. Yes, Kelm admitted without pretense. We need your aggression, your combat experience, your weapons. The Council has authorized me to offer unprecedented technology exchanges in return for your assistance. Torres considered this. Show me what we're facing. Kelm transmitted data to the retribution systems. The command center's holographic display filled with images of the Ravager attacks, the destruction of planets, the consumption of resources, the merciless efficiency with which they eliminated all resistance. 17 of their ships destroyed hundreds of yours? Lieutenant Cross asked incredulously after reviewing the battle data. Yes, Kelm confirmed. Our weapons barely penetrate their defenses. They seem to adapt to our attack patterns with remarkable speed. Torres studied the tactical information with narrowed eyes. How long until they reach your core worlds? Less than 3 standard days at their current velocity. Millions of civilians are in evacuation protocols, but there isn't time to save everyone. Torres stood. Decision made. Ambassador, tell the Council that the Retribution will respond. Transmit the coordinates of the Ravager fleet. Kelm's crystalline form brightened with relief. Thank you, Captain. The Council will be monitoring. We are grateful. After the communication ended, Torres turned to his crew. Opinions? It could be a trap, Lieutenant Cross suggested cautiously. The Council has never been fond of us. Unlikely, Dr. Park countered. The destruction we saw in those images was real, and the Volari aren't known for deception. Chief Engineer Blake grinned. Perfect timing to test the quantum resonance device in actual combat conditions. My thoughts exactly. Torres agreed. Alert Admiral Nix of our deployment. Tell him we're responding to a humanitarian crisis at the Council's request. Lieutenant Cross, plot a course to intercept the Ravager fleet. Maximum speed. Aye, Captain. Course plotted. Estimated arrival in 27 hours. Execute, Torres ordered. The Retribution surged forward, its advanced engines pushing it to velocities that the Council's ships could never achieve. Back in the Council chamber, representatives gathered around a massive holographic display showing the Retribution's approach. Many were seeing a human warship for the first time, and the reaction was mixed. It's so angular, observed one representative. Aggressive even in design. Look at the weapon systems, another noted with alarm. Are those kinetic accelerators? And is that antimatter containment? Kelm stood with Elder Trix, watching the reactions. The humans call it a peacekeeping vessel. Peacekeeping? Voss rippled with skepticism. It appears designed for war. The humans have a saying, Kelm replied. Si vis pacem, para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. A disturbing philosophy, Voss commented. Elder Trix clicked thoughtfully. And yet, here we are, having failed to prepare adequately, now depending on those who did. The hologram updated to show the Ravager fleet, 217 ships of various sizes, all bearing the distinctive biomechanical architecture that had become synonymous with destruction throughout the galaxy. They moved in perfect formation toward the Bright Shore system's inner planets, where millions of refugees awaited evacuation. The human ship is still hours away, Voss noted. It will be too late. They claim to be accelerating beyond their standard velocity. Kelm responded. They have adjusted their arrival estimate to 19 hours. One ship against 217, murmured a council member. Even for Deathworlders, the odds seem impossible. Aboard the Retribution, Torres reviewed the final battle plans with his command staff. The ship hummed with activity as crew members prepared for what would be humanity's first interstellar combat operation. The Ravagers appear to operate as a hive mind, Dr. Park explained, pointing to neural activity patterns in the sensor data. Individual ships function as extensions of a central intelligence, which means if we disrupt their communication, we might throw the entire fleet into disarray. Torres concluded. Exactly, Park confirmed. Their biomechanical nature suggests vulnerability to certain frequencies. Chief Blake's quantum resonance device might be particularly effective. Blake nodded enthusiastically. The QRD generates a cascading field of quantum fluctuations. Against organic technology, it should create a sympathetic vibration that tears their systems apart from the inside. Theoretically, any potential risk to council ships or civilians? Torres asked. Negligible, Blake assured him. The resonance is specifically calibrated to the Ravager's unique biomechanical signature. Lieutenant Cross spoke up from the tactical station. Captain, I've analyzed their attack patterns. They prioritize larger targets first, then methodically eliminate smaller ones. If we present ourselves as a significant threat, we can draw them away from civilian populations. Good. Torres straightened. Here's the plan. We'll enter the system and immediately engage a small patrol group to demonstrate our capabilities. Once we have their attention, we'll lead them away from populated areas and deploy the QRD at the heart of their formation. Sir, Cross hesitated. If the QRD doesn't work as expected, we'll be surrounded by the entire Ravager fleet with no backup. Torres smiled grimly. Then we'd better make sure it works. Lieutenant, estimated arrival. 43 minutes, Captain. All hands to battle stations. Weapon systems online. Shields at maximum. In the council chamber, the tension was palpable as representatives watched the Retribution approach the edge of the Bright Shore system. The human ship had pushed its engines beyond what council engineers had believed possible, arriving hours ahead of schedule. It's actually going to engage them, Voss observed incredulously, as the Retribution headed directly toward a patrol group of 3 Ravager vessels. The patrol would have detected the evacuation transports within hours. Kelm noted. The human ship is intercepting them first. The council watched in stunned silence as the Retribution closed with the Ravager patrol. For species that had avoided warfare for millennia, the aggressive approach seemed suicidal. Aboard the Retribution, Torres gave the order. Target the lead vessel. Kinetic accelerators. Full charge. The ship's main weapons, massive railguns capable of accelerating projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed, locked onto the approaching Ravager vessel. Fire. The Retribution shuddered slightly as the kinetic accelerators discharged. On the view screen, the hypersonic projectiles crossed the distance in seconds, impacting the lead Ravager ship with devastating force. The biomechanical vessel shuddered, armor plating fracturing under the kinetic energy. Direct hit, Lieutenant Cross reported. Their shields are down, but the vessel is still operational. Deploy nanite swarm, Torres ordered. From specialized launchers along the Retribution's hull, clouds of microscopic robots streamed toward the damaged Ravager ship, designed to infiltrate systems and disrupt them from within. The nanites swarmed over the biomechanical surface, seeking entry points. Nanites deployed. Infiltration successful, Cross confirmed. Beginning system disruption. On the view screen, the Ravager ship began to convulse. Its organic components rejected the nanite intrusion, while its mechanical systems fought against the reprogramming attempts. Within moments, critical systems began to fail, and the ship's weapons powered down. The other patrol vessels are responding, Cross warned. Incoming fire. Evasive maneuvers, return fire, all secondary batteries. The Retribution danced away from energy beams fired by the remaining Ravager ships, its point defense systems automatically intercepting incoming projectiles. The human vessel's secondary weapons, a combination of laser arrays and missile batteries, opened up on the attackers. In the council chamber, representatives watched in shock as the Retribution systematically dismantled the Ravager patrol. The first vessel was now completely inert, its organic components dying as the nanites spread throughout its systems. The second Ravager ship exploded as a concentrated barrage of missiles penetrated its weakened defenses. The third, attempting to retreat, was caught in a crossfire of kinetic and energy weapons that sheared through its biomechanical hull. 14 seconds, Voss whispered, the Alteran's gelatinous form now a pale yellow of astonishment. They neutralized the patrol in 14 seconds. Kelm stood immobile, crystalline structure reflecting the holographic battle. Now they have the attention of the main fleet. Indeed, the hologram showed the remaining Ravager vessels changing course, abandoning their approach to the inner planets and turning toward the Retribution. 214 ships against one. They're sacrificing themselves, an observer noted with a mixture of horror and admiration. No, Kelm corrected. They're fighting. Aboard the Retribution. Torres watched as the Ravager fleet adjusted course to intercept them. Status of the quantum resonance device? Fully charged and ready. Captain, Blake reported, but we'll need to get closer, ideally to the center of their formation. That's the plan. Torres turned to Lieutenant Cross. Take us in, full speed. Let's make ourselves an irresistible target. The Retribution accelerated toward the oncoming Ravager fleet, its weapon systems continuously firing to maintain the illusion of a conventional attack. The human ship weaved through initial volleys from distant Ravager vessels, its advanced point defense systems intercepting incoming fire with remarkable efficiency. They're forming a containment pattern, Cross observed, trying to surround us. Perfect, Torres replied. Continue evasive maneuvers, but maintain our course toward their center. Make them work for it. As the Retribution penetrated deeper into the Ravager formation, the intensity of enemy fire increased. Energy beams and exotic projectiles filled space around the human vessel. Its shields flared brilliantly as they absorbed and deflected the assault. Shields at 70%, Cross reported, taking hits from multiple vectors. Maintain course, Torres ordered calmly. Chief Blake, status of the QRD? Ready on your command. Captain, we're almost at optimal position. In the council chamber, representatives watched with a mixture of dread and hope as the human ship drove deeper into the heart of the Ravager fleet. Many had expected the Retribution to be destroyed in seconds, yet it continued to advance, shields flickering but holding against the onslaught. It's suicidal, Voss insisted. No ship could survive that level of concentrated fire. Their shields operate on principles we don't fully understand, Kelm noted. And their point defense systems are intercepting a significant percentage of incoming ordnance. On the holographic display, The Retribution had reached the center of the Ravager formation, surrounded on all sides by enemy vessels. The human ship appeared trapped. Aboard the Retribution, Torres gave the order. Activate the quantum resonance device. Full power. Activating QRD, Blake confirmed, hands dancing across his console. Quantum field expanding. Now, from the heart of the human ship, an invisible wave of quantum disturbance radiated outward. Unlike conventional weapons, the QRD didn't create visible effects in space. Instead, it generated a precisely calibrated pattern of quantum fluctuations designed to interact with the unique biomechanical structure of the Ravager vessels. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Ravager ships continued their assault, energy weapons and projectiles hammering at the Retribution's shields. Shields at 43%, Cross reported tensely. Did it work? Give it time, Blake insisted, monitoring the readings. The resonance needs to build. Then, the nearest Ravager vessels began to shudder. Their biomechanical structures, subjected to quantum fluctuations that interfered with both their organic and mechanical components, started to tear themselves apart from within. Metal plates buckled as organic tissues rejected them. Power systems overloaded as quantum uncertainty principles prevented normal energy flow. "It's working!" Blake exclaimed. "The resonance is spreading through their fleet." On the view screen, the effect cascaded outward. Ravager ships convulsed, their integrated systems failing catastrophically as the quantum resonance exploited the fundamental weakness of their biomechanical design. Some vessels simply went dark, their organic components dying instantly. Others exploded as power cores destabilized. A few began firing randomly, their targeting systems compromised by the resonance effect. "Maintain position," Torres ordered. "Keep the QRD at maximum output." In the council chamber, representatives watched in astonishment as the Ravager fleet disintegrated. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for months were breaking apart, unable to withstand the quantum disruption generated by the human vessel. "Impossible," Voss whispered, gelatinous form rippling with disbelief. "No," Elder Trix responded. "Simply beyond our understanding." As the quantum resonance continued to spread, a massive Ravager vessel, far larger than the others, pushed through the chaos toward the Retribution. Its distinctive configuration marked it as a command ship. "Captain," Cross warned. "Large vessel approaching at high velocity. It appears to be partially shielded against the resonance effect." Torres studied the incoming ship. "That must be their command vessel. Target kinetic accelerators and prepare a concentrated nanite deployment." Before the order could be executed, a communication request flashed on the main console, something unprecedented. "Sir," Cross reported with surprise, "we're receiving a transmission from the Ravager command ship. They want to talk." Torres hesitated only briefly. On screen, the view screen shifted to show the interior of the Ravager vessel. The being visible was a grotesque fusion of biological and mechanical components, a vaguely humanoid form with metallic exoskeleton integrated directly into organic tissue. Multiple sensor appendages extended from its head, and its voice, when it spoke, was a discordant mixture of electronic tones and organic sounds. "I am Supreme Commander Ka," the being stated flatly. "You have destroyed my fleet with technology we have not encountered before." Torres stood straight. "I am Captain Rick Torres of the Earth Defense Force vessel Retribution. Your attacks on Galactic Council worlds have resulted in billions of casualties. Surrender your remaining forces immediately." Ka's sensor appendages twitched. "Surrender is not within our parameters. Consumption is necessary. Resources must be acquired." "There are ways to acquire resources without destruction," Torres countered. "The Council would likely negotiate." "Negotiation is inefficient. Ka interrupted. Your species is unexpected, formidable. We will adapt. We will return. We will consume your worlds as well? Torres's expression hardened. No, you won't. This ends now. With a subtle gesture to Lieutenant Cross, Torres authorized the firing sequence. The communication was still active when the Retribution's kinetic accelerators discharged, sending hypersonic projectiles through space toward the Ravager command ship. The projectiles, enhanced with nanite payloads, struck with devastating precision. On the view screen, Supreme Commander Ka jerked backward as the impact rocked the vessel. You will... The transmission cut off abruptly. Direct hit, Cross confirmed. Their shields are down. Nanites deployed and active. Torres watched as the command ship began to convulse, the quantum resonance effect combining with the nanite infiltration to tear the vessel apart from within. Maintain QRD output. Don't stop until every last one of them is neutralized. The destruction of the command ship seemed to accelerate the disintegration of the remaining Ravager fleet. Without central coordination, individual vessels succumbed more quickly to the quantum resonance. Within minutes, the space around the Retribution was filled with drifting debris, the remains of what had once been an unstoppable force of conquest. No Ravager ships remain operational. Captain, Cross reported after a final sensor sweep. The fleet has been neutralized. Torres nodded, tension visibly draining from his shoulders. Contact the Council. Inform them that the threat has been eliminated. In the Council chamber, the announcement was met with stunned silence, followed by an eruption of voices. Representatives who had feared total destruction now faced an unexpected reality. The Ravagers, who had seemed invincible, had been decisively defeated by a single human vessel. How? Demanded Voss, the Alterant's form cycling through colors of confusion. How could one ship accomplish what our entire defense fleet could not? Elder Trix turned to Kelm. Ambassador, you've studied human history. Did you anticipate this outcome? Kelm's crystalline form glimmered with complex harmonics. I believed they might help. I did not expect this. Their technological development has clearly accelerated since our last assessment, because we isolated them, Trix observed. Without access to the peaceful technologies of the Council, they continued to develop along their own path, focused on defense and warfare. A path we may now be thankful for, another representative noted. The holographic display showed the Retribution moving to assist with evacuation efforts, its shuttles deploying to rescue stranded civilians from the system's outer habitats. They are helping the survivors, Kelm observed, not just destroying the enemy. Voss rippled skeptically. For now. But what happens when they realize their power? A single human ship defeated an enemy our entire fleet couldn't stop. What prevents them from turning that power against us? Perhaps, Elder Trix suggested, we should ask them. 3 days later, Ambassador Kelm's vessel docked with the Retribution. The human ship had remained in the Bright Shore system, assisting with recovery efforts and ensuring no Ravager stragglers remained. Escorted to the conference room, Kelm found Captain Torres and his senior officers reviewing data from the battle. Ambassador, Torres greeted, rising from his seat. Welcome aboard the Retribution. Captain Torres. Kelm's crystalline form vibrated with formal greeting harmonics. The Council has tasked me with expressing our profound gratitude for your intervention. Billions of lives were saved by your actions. Torres nodded. We're glad we could help. Have your scientists had a chance to examine the Ravager debris? Yes, the information has been illuminating. Their technology was indeed beyond our current understanding. Which brings me to the purpose of my visit. Kelm gestured to a data crystal. The Council has authorized me to provide this technical database as promised. Advanced propulsion theories, energy generation systems, medical technologies. Torres accepted the crystal with a slight smile. Thank you. We'll make good use of it. He handed Kelm a similar device in return. And this contains the specifications for the quantum resonance device, as well as our nanite programming protocols, in case the Ravagers or something like them return. Kelm accepted the crystal with surprise. The easy sharing of military technology was unexpected. You would give us your weapons? Defense systems, Torres corrected. And yes, the galaxy is a dangerous place. The Council should have the tools to protect itself. Many on the Council feared you would use this situation to your advantage, to demand concessions or privileges. Torres shrugged. We don't need to demand what will come naturally. The Council has seen what humans can contribute. I suspect the restriction policies will be reconsidered without any pressure from us. You are more insightful than many give your species credit for. Kelm admitted. May I ask a personal question, Captain? Of course. Your ship, your weapons, they are designed for warfare, yet you use them for protection. How does your species reconcile these aspects of your nature? Torres considered the question carefully. On Earth, there's an ecological principle. Apex predators, the most dangerous hunters, often become keystone species that maintain the balance of entire ecosystems. Their potential for violence serves a greater purpose. He moved to the viewport, gesturing toward the stars. Humans evolved on a world that challenged us at every turn. We developed aggression. Yes, but also cooperation, empathy, and a drive to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We've learned, painfully, over centuries, that strength carries responsibility. The responsibility to protect, Kelm recalled from earlier research. Exactly. The Ravagers attacked because they could, with no regard for the lives they destroyed. We fought because we could protect those lives. That's the difference. Kelm's crystalline structure resonated with understanding harmonics. I believe I begin to see why your species developed as it did. Perhaps being a Deathworlder is not the limitation we assumed, but rather a form of specialization. Every species has its gifts, Torres replied. Ours happens to include being very good at surviving and helping others do the same. 1 week later, the Galactic Council convened a special session. The chamber was filled beyond capacity, with representatives from every member species in attendance. At the center of the proceedings stood Captain Torres, the first human ever invited to address the full council. Elder Trix, presiding over the session, activated the formal speaking crystal. Representatives of the Galactic Council, today marks a historic occasion. For the first time in our history, we faced an existential threat we could not overcome through our traditional means. And for the first time, we turned to a restricted species for assistance. The ancient Trixian gestured toward Torres. The response of the humans exceeded all expectations. A single Earth vessel, the Retribution, eliminated a threat that had destroyed our combined defense fleet. In light of these events, the Council has voted to reclassify Earth and humanity. A murmur spread through the chamber. Torres remained expressionless, though Lieutenant Cross, standing behind him, allowed herself a small smile. Effective immediately, Elder Trix continued. Humans are no longer classified as restricted Deathworlders, but as a protector species. Full trade and diplomatic relations are authorized, and human representatives will be welcomed as observers to Council proceedings. The announcement was met with a mixture of applause and concerned murmurs. Not all Council members were comfortable with the rapid change in status, but none could deny the reality they had witnessed. Torres stepped forward to address the Council. On behalf of Earth and humanity, I thank the Council for this recognition. We accept the responsibilities that come with this new designation and pledge to use our capabilities in defense of galactic peace." Elder Trix clicked appreciatively. "Captain Torres, the Council would be interested in establishing a more formal defensive arrangement with Earth, perhaps a permanent human presence in key systems." "I believe that could be arranged," Torres replied. "Admiral Nix has authorized me to discuss preliminary terms for a mutual defense pact." From the audience, Diplomat Voss raised a gelatinous appendage. "And what assurances do we have that human ships will not themselves become a threat? The power demonstrated by the Retribution was concerning." Torres turned to the Alteran. "The same assurance that has kept us within our treaty boundaries for over a century. Our word. Humans value trust once established. We have no interest in conquest or domination. We seek partnership, not subjugation." "Fine words," Voss replied skeptically. "But history suggests—" "History," Torres interrupted gently, "is a teacher, not a prison. Yours taught you to avoid conflict at all costs. Ours taught us to face it when necessary. Both perspectives have value." Ambassador Kelm moved forward, crystalline form glittering under the chamber lights. "I have spent significant time studying human culture and history. Their capacity for violence is matched by their capacity for compassion. When they fight, it is often to protect. I believe we have nothing to fear from a species that responded to our distress, call not with demands, but with immediate assistance." The debate continued for hours, with various representatives expressing hopes and concerns about the new arrangement. Throughout it all, Torres and his officers answered questions with patience and transparency, understanding the Council's caution. Finally, Elder Trix raised all 6 appendages for silence. "The matter is decided. Earth will become our partner in maintaining galactic security. A new era begins today, one in which the strengths of all our species complement each other." As the session concluded, Kelm approached Torres privately. "You handled that remarkably well, Captain. Many of my colleagues expected humans to be less diplomatic." Torres smiled. "We've had a lot of practice at diplomacy too, Ambassador. Sometimes it's easier to be diplomatic when you have a strong position." "Indeed." Kelm's crystalline form shifted to express curiosity. "May I ask what happens now? Will more human ships join the Retribution?" "Eventually, yes. Admiral Nix is already preparing a diplomatic and security delegation. But for now, the Retribution will remain as Earth's representative." "And you, Captain, will you continue in this role?" Torres gazed out at the assembled representatives, many still discussing the historic changes. "For as long as I'm needed, this is what we've wanted for a century, the chance to be full partners in galactic society. I intend to ensure it goes smoothly." "I believe it will," Kelm replied. "The Council has created a new emergency protocol. When future threats emerge that our peaceful society cannot address, the response will be simple. When darkness comes, call the Deathworlders." Torres nodded, expression solemn but determined, "And will answer." As the Retribution prepared to depart for its first official patrol of Council space, Lieutenant Cross joined Torres on the observation deck. Beyond the viewports, the magnificent spiral of the galaxy stretched into infinity, no longer a distant wonder, but a responsibility. "Quite a change from a week ago," Cross observed. "From restricted species to galactic protectors." Torres nodded. "A responsibility we've been preparing for, whether we knew it or not." "Do you think the Ravagers were the last threat we'll face?" "Not a chance," Torres replied. "The universe is vast, and if there's one thing humanity has learned, it's that existence is rarely peaceful for long. there will be other ravagers, other dangers. And we'll be ready for them, Cross stated confidently. We will. Torres turned from the viewport to face the vastness of his ship, a vessel of war that had become an instrument of peace. Because that's what Deathworlders do. We survive, we protect, we endure. As the Retribution accelerated into the depths of space, its mission transformed from isolation to integration. Humanity had found its place in the galactic community, not despite their evolutionary heritage, but because of it. The apex predators had become the guardians, fulfilling an ancient role written into their very DNA. And across the galaxy, countless species looked to the stars with new hope, knowing that when darkness threatened, the Deathworlders would answer the call.